What is that? The complicated. What, you want to pull it down? No, you're not.
Krishna. Welcome everyone to Bhagavata Sravana. Thank you so much for being here. Today we have a very, very special guest speaker with us today, Jagannath Priya, who is one of the most loving brahmacharis I've ever met. In terms of just giving so much, one of the most loving devotees I've ever met. Giving so much encouragement, so much support. He's been staying with us off and on here at Bhakti Center. He's a senior disciple of Radhanath Swami from Chaupati. And he told me that before staying here at Bhakti Center, he hadn't spent more than how many days in one place and how many years?
Oh, 5, 6 days.
Yeah, he hadn't spent more than 5-6 days in one place for like basically his whole Krishna consciousness, which has been how many years, Prabhu? About 20 years. So imagine the kind of just spiritual strength that takes to be constantly traveling and constantly giving. And he's a teacher, he's a preacher, and he's a community developer. He really specializes actually in community development and devotee care. And he has really developed so many communities actually around the world through his preaching and traveling and constant care. So we're really fortunate to have him here. He's also one of the most just humble and gentle devotees I've ever met. And he will be speaking today on eagerness of a spiritual practitioner. Yes. So what we do is this.
Yes, after he's done. Switch out.
There's no switch.
No switch. Nothing.
She was just using it. Okay, never mind.
It's not our day technology.
Please join me in prayers to our teachers, to whom we owe all this transcendental knowledge. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Kadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudamadagam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Radha Shri Vishakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gauramye Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhayascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Anyways, I think all of you can hear me. Anyways, it's a small group and a small hall, so it should be fine. I am grateful to the team of devotees who organized this event, Bhagavad Shravan, and also to the temple management here, who have kept the spirit of Bhagavatam going on despite tremendous amount of challenges in this particular city of New York. Undoubtedly, the energy of this city is so compelling. It forces us to think in a direction which is not natural to our existence. The propaganda is so overwhelming that despite hearing so many topics, so many meaningful topics about the Lord, about our soul and so many other things, as soon as you are out of the association of devotees, the city forces us to think and behave in a certain manner which most of the times may not be conducive to our spiritual growth. At a short notice, I was requested to take this class, so please excuse my shortcomings. So I thought to speak on this topic of eagerness of a spiritual practitioner. Considering this is the session on Bhagavad Shravan, so we are more or less going to discuss from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a beautiful literature which speaks about the innermost desires of a living entity, the innermost journey of a living entity, till he reaches to the point of fulfillment. It begins from searching the self and ends at reaching the super self, or as what Srimad Bhagavatam speaks, God and the living entity. So it begins from the living entity, your own self, and reaches to God. This journey is explained in a very beautiful way with the discussions between sage Shukdev Goswami and the listener Parikshit, King Parikshit, who was a highly accomplished king of his times. And therefore this discussion becomes even more important, because it was not amongst two people who were failures in life. Both of them were accomplished in their own manners. One as a sage, highly accomplished sage, and one as a highly accomplished material person. All kinds of acquisitions he had. And it's even more interesting that this discussion happened when Parikshit was not very old. See, when we grow old at a certain age, the chemicals, the hormones in our body change, and naturally the passions subside. So it is natural for people to think about something different at that age. But here Parikshit is young, he is still in his journey of conquest, and in one such journey, when he comes across a situation where he has to either fight the forces of nature or give in to the force of nature. So Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die in 7 days. It is interesting to note that although he was cursed, he had the power to deny the curse. Probably the one and only rare phenomena which we see, even in the whole gamut of scriptures, a young accomplished king, he denies his natural right to live just on the order of a curse, voluntarily. So that is so unique about King Parikshit. He surrenders to sage Shukdev Goswami, and Shukdev Goswami is also intrigued that you are still young, you are an accomplished king, you have all the power to defeat the curse. Yet he says that I am interested to hear about the topics or the subject matter which brings the greatest meaning to our life, to my life itself, to existence itself. It was as if he was already tired and looking for an opportunity or an excuse to get out of the journey of life. In most of our cases, despite all the ups and downs we go through the life, we are always seeking an opportunity to still stabilize our life. Of course, we need to stabilize our life, but we want more than stability. We want a permanent existence. The internal desire of a living entity is to exist in a way that he is not disturbed, or his equation of life which he has set should not be disturbed by anyone else. Even though as devotees we know that one day we will die, one day we have to give up things, still in the journey of our life we are constantly working to secure our domains in a way that there must not be any interference by any time, any place or any circumstance. That urge, that passion to secure your own positions, it's natural for a conditioned soul. In the Bhagavad Gita there is a beautiful verse which Krishna speaks in the 13th chapter, text number 22. Try to visualize it. Purushaha prakrutistho hi bhumte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangasya sad asad yoni janmasu. So Krishna speaks to Arjun that the living entity, when he is in this prakriti, in this material world, he is not simply existing in the environment in a physical sense. For example, this particular phone is existing in this environment in a physical sense, but this phone does not have a consciousness of its own. This book does not have a spirit of its own. The book cannot decide, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, it's dispassionately there for whoever possesses it. But the living entity, when he is present in this material world, he is present in a very different way. The living entity is situated, stha, prakriti stha. Stha, this word, whenever this word comes, it, or let's say grihastha, prakriti stha, one who is situated in a physical, mental, intellectual and emotional way. When you are situated in some structure, not just physically but emotionally and mentally, intellectually, then that is called as a sthiti or a positioning. So we all have a psychological positioning in life. So when the living entity comes in this world, he is prakritistha, means his mind, his intellect is so well situated, aligned to the material nature. And therefore, he starts conceiving of a life which only seems to be more valuable from the material perspectives. Please try to get this point. There are many perspectives with which we can live life, undoubtedly. And that is why human beings keep asking questions all the time. We are never convinced. When we meet our friends, our relatives, our teachers, anybody, we are asking questions. Okay, what do you do? How to make more money? Which is a nice place to stay? What is nice? We are always, there is an urge, there is a sense of inquiry always, trying to figure out, am I in the best position now? Am I in the best position? It's always there. It's a perpetual inquiry. This inquiry is of the nature in the conditioned stage. That which adds value within the material world only. Because we are prakriti-stho. So wherever you are situated, you are going to have inquiries based to strengthen that particular situation. It is not natural for a living entity to naturally ask questions about God. Even if we ask questions about God, that comes only after a certain amount of disillusionment. Nobody just starts asking questions about God. And when we do programs for children generally ask very fresh questions about God. Why is this like that? Why is that like that? But as you grow, when you become adults, you always ask questions about the truth, an apparent truth probably, which relates to your life and then extends forward. Adults don't have a sense of asking arbitrary questions. It's kids who ask that. This is because we are well situated in this material world. And because we are situated here to fulfill every single desire, we adjust our positionings. And that is how the living entity, it's described. Sat asat yonishu janmasu. The living entity keeps traveling in sat, means auspicious and inauspicious species of life. Now here auspicious and inauspicious refers to species which help us grow in our consciousness and species which do not help us to grow in consciousness. Also in the human form of life, many times throughout the journey of many of our lives, we may do so many things which are not right. So that then becomes an asat yoni or an inauspicious life. And asata yoni means we have led our lives in a way that it has added meaning to our existence. So that is sata yoni. A repetition of this keeps happening only because one is firmly situated and grounded to this idea that I exist on the physical plane. So when Parikshit Maharaj meets Shukdev Goswami, after a brief interaction with Shukdev Goswami, he starts asking questions. And it is almost about 4 days of the discussion. So he was cursed for 7 days, to live for 7 days more. So after almost about the end of the 4th day, there is a pause in the discussion which is happening throughout the day, all those days. Parikshit Maharaj assumes that Shukadeva Goswami may be thinking that I am used to all this opulence of being a king. I am used to be heard of than to listening to others. So he tells Shukadeva Goswami that, my dear sage, please do not stop this spiritual discussion. Although it may appear that I am hungry or thirsty, not having eaten or even had a little water for 4 days. He says, na esha ati dussaha kshunmam tyaktudam api badhate. Hunger and thirst are very fundamental desires of any living entity. You cannot fight that. Beyond certain things, because beyond certain level, you cannot ignore the pangs of hunger and thirst. So Parikshit Maharaj is saying, I can ignore these pangs of hunger and thirst. I am eager to listen about the glories of the Supreme Truth. So this question may arise, how is that possible? So Parikshit Maharaj, he is saying, it is not that I am not actually drinking or eating. I am drinking and eating something else. So what is that? Pibantam tvam mukham bhojam achyutam hari kathamritam. My dear master, this beautiful philosophy, the words of the Supreme Absolute Truth which are coming out through your mouth, they are nourishing my heart and soul in such a manner that I am no longer feeling the need to eat or drink. So I do not need to be, you don't need to pause this discussion because I have a very short span of life. Amongst us we have Giriraj Prabhu, who is a very reputed doctor of Bhaktivedanta Hospital in Mumbai. I am sure he must have seen many dying patients, or the conditions of people who have been dying, who are on the last few days of life. And he can maybe provide more proof to this, that how many people on their final days of life are totally relaxed and want to do nothing else but hear about the glories of the Lord. It's not a natural thing. People during their final moments, they want to accomplish that one final desire, something. I want to meet my family members, or I want to eat something, some feast, or hear some music, and that wish is fulfilled by the law. Even if somebody is given capital punishment, they fulfill their last desire. So it's a very, very rare thing for someone to speak like this, especially when they are young, when they are healthy, not in terminal illness. There are young people who are terminally ill and maybe they get a message that now you won't survive. And for such devotees or such people, the hospital provides a lot of counseling, a lot of care about afterlife and so on, trying to build up the spirit. Still it is so difficult. What to talk of just knowing that I am not going to survive, you give up your family and walk your own path. Not that anyways I am going to die, so all of you encourage me, give me a lift up my spirits. It was not like that. So it's something interesting that what kind of eagerness must Parikshit Maharaj have had, that he was free in his journey to pursue the truths of life. Parikshit Maharaj himself is revealing in a couple of verses later that how this happens, how one can achieve this state. First he speaks that who is a person, what is the quality of a person who can truly relish the pastimes of the Lord. So he says, Nivritta Tarsher Upagiya Mana, those who are Nivritta from tarshed. Trishna means hungers, desires, ambitions. As long as we have gross and subtle ambitions, as long as we have big and small ambitions, those ambitions create an obstacle strong enough for us not to relish the greatest experiences of life. Even in spiritual community, in a spiritual environment, one may start developing ambition which may go in the garb of services, that okay, I am doing service, I am protecting my service and so on. And one may fulfill one's ambitions. So it's a very tricky thing. So therefore Bhagavatam does not speak about these external elements of service. It goes on the core fundamentals. Trishna, tarshed. As long as you have hankerings of any kind, it presents an obstacle. One time Srila Prabhupada was with his disciples and one of the disciples asked Prabhupada that they had met a reporter who had asked them that, do you have any ambitions? You are a spiritual organization, so what are your ambitions? So this one devotee, he said, no, actually, sorry. The reporter was asking Prabhupada, do you have any ambitions? So Prabhupada said, we have no ambitions. So she said, how can you have no ambitions? As a spiritual organization, you must have some goals, some objectives to meet. You must have some ambitions. So Prabhupada said, no, we have no ambitions. So this devotee, he thought that this is a Western reporter and Prabhupada is an Indian, and maybe Prabhupada as an Indian is not able to understand what the Western reporter is saying, and probably the Western reporter is not understanding what Prabhupada means to say, so he intervened by his own intelligence. And he said, Prabhupada is trying to tell that we don't have material ambitions. We have spiritual ambitions. So Prabhupada got irritated and he looked at that disciple and he said, no, we have no ambitions. So again he said, yeah, exactly, but that means no material ambitions. He said, no, we have no ambitions. So this is so important to understand. As long as we have an ambition or desire or hankerings, it will start taking shelter in one thing or the other. As long as our hearts are not fully pure, we may give up external material things, but those external achievements, if having given up those external achievements, we will start wanting to create achievements in the spiritual domains. Then it's not spiritual as such. So one can become heavily ambitious even in a spiritual society. Want to put extraordinary efforts to gain name, fame, honor, prestige, recognition and so on. Those desires naturally come up. So it's a constant battle, constant struggle of a living entity to fight that. As long as one does not fight that, we are not fully relieved of it, and that is what this word nivritti means. Vritti means propensity. We all are bound by certain propensities. I don't know how many of you believe in this concept of astrology, but if you have come across this concept of astrology in your birth charts, when you are born, there is something which is declared that this person has a vritti of a certain thing. So by the physical birth, we have some basic vrittis which we see in children. Some children are intellectually driven, some have musical talent, some are just manipulators, some are very mischievous, all those. So that is defined by what is called as vritti at birth position. So the zero position is this, that is called vritti. And that zero position creates a basic fundamental sense of our life, our desires and all those things, our choices, everything is shaped by that. Of course, by spiritual practice, by the mercy of Krishna and so many other things, the vritti can be changed to certain levels, but your fundamental structure always remains the same. So this word nivritti, also this word nivritti is translated as retired. So when one is retired of all the material desires, that is what it essentially means. But when you go more deeper into it, it means retired from your basic propensities to do something. So the first stage of engagement in spiritual life for all the devotees would obviously be to engage our propensities, our talents, our skills. But vritti is highly dependent on the body. So let's say I'm a good painter, I'm a good singer, I'm a good artist. I need a certain kind of a body to perform all those things. At a certain age, the vritti does not fructify. You cannot walk on that tool of your life. You have to move ahead. And that is why nivritti, having a sense of life or functioning which is beyond our vritti, must be cultivated. This is what Parikshit Maharaj is saying. Those who are nivritta or fully retired of all their own propensities and desires, for such people, they can relish hearing these pastimes of the Lord. Without which one is essentially killing oneself. He goes to explain this shloka in such a manner that when one is not eager about hearing the pastimes of the Lord, essentially he will land up in a situation where he is killing his own self. Now how are we killing our own self? Again and again, born, birth after birth, we come and we repeat the same activities. Jai Shri Sravana Bhagwan ki. We repeat the same activities again and again, and we are never tired of it. We are disillusioned of it many times, but we are never tired of it completely. In fact, when I meet with devotees, especially in the US, every few months when I visit them, I always see they have an upgraded phone. Most of them. They have an upgraded phone. And I wonder how much they must be spending. Of course, it's easier to buy. Still, when your phone is working so well, $1,000 phone, which was not conceived of about 15 years ago. When Apple first came out with the phone, this was a big discussion that who is going to buy these expensive phones? Of course, Steve Jobs was very persistent with his vision, and he knew if you give them a certain class of things, we will get them addicted to a certain standard. And that went to such a level that a typical phone, this phone can last for a good 10 years. My first phone lasted for 11 years, and it stopped working well when I upgraded the OS. After which I decided never upgrade the OS. The moment you upgrade, it gets slow. So every year if a person is changing a phone, please don't take it personally, I am just giving a perspective. If a person is changing the phone, which is about $1,000, not using the phone completely, most of these features, I had read one article which was saying that when the first Apollo mission had happened, the computer chip which was sent, that computer had a 4 MB RAM. Today we have 16 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes, 64 gigabytes. Can you imagine what is the difference between 4 MB and 64 GB? We did discoveries up there in 4 MB. So basically we are not utilizing this phone even for 1 year and we change it. Let's say somebody is giving that for free or at no cost. That's a different subject matter. But if in our heart there is an excitement that okay, there's a new feature coming up, let's take it, let's take it, let's take it. That urge is nothing but an indication that Trishna, the hunger of material things, is not subsiding at any cost. In fact, one of the very important things for progress in spiritual life is stability and consistency. If you want to challenge yourself in this thing. When you acquire something, try to keep up with it for a very long time. Like a person who collects all antiquities, like that. I have tried to do that in a limited way, and I love that fight which goes with the mind. When you stick to one particular laptop or a phone for a long time, after 2-3 years you have this urge which comes, I need to change. Why you need to change, there is no answer. But you just feel the need to change. If you somehow resist that simple character of resisting those simple urges will shape a character to deal with many other aspects of life. Please do not think that I will develop a stability in spirituality, but I may be unstable in my material lives. That never happens. Whatever is your character, if you are stable with your material acquisitions and material positions, if you are peaceful and satisfied there, that character will shape up your spirituality, because character is an internal function. How you are outside also determines how you are going to function inside. Or rather, how you are inside is going to determine how you are going to be situated in external and internal domains. Both. So Parikshit Maharaj, he speaks this word. It's one of my favorite words, Nivritta Tarshe. So whenever, as spiritual practitioners, we all come through situations where we feel envious, we feel insecure, we feel egoistic, we feel competitive, we want to do something. When that comes, try to think over this. Why I want to accomplish what I want to accomplish? Is this a personal order on me by the spiritual master or the guru or Krishna himself? That please do this, or is it just my own urge? What am I going to accomplish through this? If you simply question yourself in this manner, you will get the strength to resist your desires. Having a life which is simply fulfilling one desire after another desire is just going to exhaust the living entity. We pay a very big price to secure our material lives. And despite paying such a big price of getting educated for 20 years, working for 20-30 years, all this while throughout the journey, at least in my journey so far, I haven't felt fully secure from the external plane. Sometimes I do feel I should have studied this subject. I have a liking for certain subjects and I feel that, I should have studied that. Some of the seniors whose programs I used to attend many years ago, about 25 years ago, they used to tell me that once you join the ashram, you won't get time to read and so many things. You won't get time to learn so many things. And I used to feel, once I'm part of Brahmacharya ashram, I'm going to read the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Puranas and this and that. I had actually made a plan that in 1 month I'll read this Puran, that Puran, this Upanishad, this Vedas and so on. So the plan was for 2 years, in which I'll read the entire Vedic literature. I have just read the Bhagavatam, nothing else. I have read many other things, but not in a year or so. However, sometimes that desire comes in my mind. I should have done this, I should have done that, and so on. I wonder, after so many years of practice and so many years of also doing so many things, why those small desires still keep lurking? And sometimes when I hear someone speak on a certain subject, I am so intrigued and I feel that, I should have studied this 10 years ago. I had got into this subject but I didn't take it seriously and so on. So although it's externally not a big problem, but this idea that I should have done this subtle form of lamentation which exists, I should have done this. This lamentation can take shape in any other thing in life. It may not just remain in the domain of reading. It can come in the domain of any other thing in life. As long as we have a tendency to lament. Then I wonder that how much price did I pay just to have my education done? Not just in terms of money, in terms of emotions, in terms of intellect, in terms of time and so on. And as you go in the journey of life, to do so many services, we pay such a big price just to keep ourselves basically stable. And yet we find ourselves incomplete to lesser or greater degree. Nobody feels that they are fully complete and now saturated. There is some sense of incompleteness which always keeps going on. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this discussion comes that a person who is paying so big price just for his material existence, he can once for all get rid of this whole material existence by paying one final price. And that price is for the object of Krishna. If the living entity simply desires that I should get devotion towards the Lord, I should attain the supreme truth, who is the essence of this whole creation. If somehow this desire happens, then he can accomplish all that he wants. So, this verse is quoted by Rupa Goswami in Padyavali. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavita matihi kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate. He says somehow or the other, if you derive an intelligence to attain Krishna, then pay any price you can pay to get that intelligence. So in fact he also says what price is to be paid here. He says tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukriter na labhyate. The only way to attain this is intense greed or sincerity, the seekingness, the eagerness to attain. And then Rupa Goswami is also explaining Janma Koti Sukriter na labhyate. Even if you have acquired lot of pious credits through many lifetimes, you cannot use those pious credits to pay and get Krishna Bhakti. It can only be gotten, it can only be achieved if one has that sincere desire. So that sincere desire is not in the manner of speaking, but it's in the urge, the hunger in every single thing you do in life. There's an urge to seek the truth. In the recent quantum physics discoveries, many such things have come about. One of the most fundamental things which the Vedanta Sutra speaks, that this world is unreal. This has been the conclusion of the Nobel physicist of last year who shared this Nobel Prize. They said, they came up with this conclusion that nothing is real in this world. Now, I am not philosophizing this. You can Google it out. This is their conclusion. So if this is not real, scientists are seeking something real. That is for sure that today quantum physics has reached to such levels that they are acknowledging the presence of a superpower clearly and distinctly. And now they are seeking now in a very different level. It has changed the entire physics, what used to exist till this point. So probably next 5 or 10 years later down the line, so many formulas are going to change now because they are getting restructured even after the findings of the James Webb telescope. So seeking this desire to know, first to understand clearly what is not real, what is not substantial, what is not worthy, and then going to the point of what is worthy. How do you understand what is worthy? it's easier to understand what is not worthy because you can determine what is not worthy by first experimenting with it. You see it with the senses itself. The scriptures say very clearly, whatever you see with the senses, only with the senses, is unworthy. The same thing is what scientists are saying today. There is another manner of acquiring understanding. We have learned only one process, that is through our senses, through hearing, or let's say through seeing, hearing, and just experimenting, we learn something. Srimad Bhagavatam takes the learning process to a next level. First is we must hear. So you hear from appropriate people, from people who have great character, good character, from people who have spent their lives understanding the nature of life itself. That is the first level. But just hearing in itself does not bring transformation. Tat shraddhadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya. So these are the discussions which are coming between Parikshit and Shukdev Goswami. Hearing about the truth, that is, but it has to be accompanied with Gyan and Vairagya. That simply means knowledge in itself has no meaning unless it translates into wisdom. And wisdom does not come unless we apply it ourselves, unless we put ourselves at stake to practice those principles. See, no matter whatever desire you have in life, you are putting your life at stake to fulfill those desires. Similarly, for spiritual acquisition or spiritual things, you have to put those very things at stake. So that is where it comes, Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya. In fact, Srila Prabhupada translates this word Shraddha here as a sincerely inquisitive student. Shraddha in simple terms means faith. But Prabhupada in the translation, I'll read the translation. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti. Vedanta does not exactly give about what the truth is. Vedanta speaks more about the unreal nature of this material world. That's why I quoted this example of the physicist. From that level, now seek. So spiritual knowledge cannot be sought just by listening or reading. It has to be accompanied by a character which is through detachment, which must be there. When we practice detachment, see, sooner at some point of time, today this word detachment seems to be a philosophical word, but at some point of time, some scientists are going to do a research on how detachment plays with which brain neuro signals, and they are going to present this theory and we'll say, oh, this is very scientific. And then we are going to follow these words. Please do not take these words as philosophical treatise. This is a very, very scientific literature. Knowledge accompanied with detachment creates a sense of an understanding which we have never learned in our entire education system. Detachment is not required. All you require is just learning certain skills and you can start making money. Knowledge means you read something and you present it. That's called knowledge today. But when we talk about Jnana, it is not like that. You don't get Jnana without Vairagya in the first place. So these words always go together. When we say Jnani or a knowledgeable person, means he also has Vairagya. He's not simply a person who is having some information. Then again, Shukdev Goswami explains, Shrinvataha Shraddhaya Nityam Grinatascha Swacheshtitam. Prabhupada explains again this word Shraddha comes, which technically means faith. But Prabhupada writes, persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly, Shrinvataha Nityam, hearing regularly, but how? Shraddhaya. So he says, those who are hearing Bhagavatam regularly, taking the matter very seriously. So here Shraddha is translated as taking the matter very seriously. Earlier it was a seriously inquisitive student. Correct? And Swacheshtitam means you take this subject matter as if it is your own burning desire. It is your own need. It is my own need. Sridhar Maharaj, one of the persons whom Srila Prabhupada refers many times, he would comment on this word Swacheshtitam. Swa means my own. So when we are hearing about Shukdev and Parikshit Maharaj, it is not Parikshit Maharaj's problems which he is discussing. Or when Shukadev is speaking to, when Krishna is speaking with Arjun, it is not Arjun's issues. Please take this as Swacheshtitam, that these are my own issues. Unless and until we start reading and practicing this thing, this information, as if it is my own issue here, we will not be able to make sense of it. So this is very, very important. Swacheshtitam. Not that I am an audience in this discussion. Okay, oh, they discussed very nice. It was a wonderful lecture. Very good, nice, wonderful kirtan. No, it's my need. Irrespective of whether Parikshit Maharaj was delivered or not, it doesn't matter. This subject matter is very important to me. And therefore I must take it very, very seriously. So it is interesting how Prabhupada is translating this word Shraddha again and again in a different manner. So I'll stop here. We have 10 minutes. We can take some questions or comments. Giriraj Prabhu, if you would like to add something about your experiences of how a passing soul struggles. Yes.
I came in late. Was this subject of the talk?
The talk was on the nature of the eagerness of a spiritual practitioner.
Of the eagerness?
Eagerness.
Oh, I thought you said egoless. I'm hearing problems. It's not you, it's me.
It's my accent also. And it's also the lack of sound system. Giriraj Prabhu, would you like to?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for a very, as every time, very beautiful and insightful class. As a doctor, when you say that when the living entity passes away, we see that transition, that lifelessness and the life. Okay, when the soul leaves the body, everything becomes a complete empty and vacant. That vacancy you see in the eyes, and then we realize that yes, this patient's soul has left the body. And yes, there is always a struggle when body is living. There is a lot of struggle. Bhagavatam is said it's like thousands of scorpions biting. And when there is especially death, unnatural death which takes place, like we have at Bhaktivedanta Hospital, we have been during bomb blast. Patients came with the bomb blast, the time they were leaving their body. Or when we go to earthquake in Nepal and other parts, where patients come with a lot of pain and they're leaving their body. That's a great struggle. So yes, we have to train ourselves, you have said very rightly from beginning. Parikshit Maharaj, although it was a sudden for him, the death was sudden. But since his childhood, by his grandfathers, he was trained to face the ultimate exam. So because he was trained by his elders, he could face this exam of giving up the body in a rightful mind and rightful consciousness. So what you said is very right, that unless and until we are trained, we are prepared, it is difficult for us to, and the final exam comes. I just end with one example. His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, a great general of our movement. Once he was driving, his great Shinaji Prabhu, Dr. Andy Desai, was driving his car, and he was late for the flight in Mumbai. And Shinaji Prabhu was driving very fast, his car, and he was a racer, car racer. So in his nature, the way, the passion, he was driving very fast. At one point, he missed the signal purposefully. And that time, one huge vehicle just came from the left side, and that is the side where Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj was sitting. And that vehicle was about to crash, but at last moment, second, Shinaji Prabhu took the right turn, and they were saved. And Shinaji Prabhu very profusely said, "Please forgive me, Maharaj, I'm sorry." So Tamal Krishna Maharaj was chanting, he said, "Don't worry, I was prepared." That is what we need to learn from the great souls like this character. That we need to prepare ourselves for our final moment. Thank you.
So that was off the cuff, huh? Wow. Thank you very much for the talk. Just a minor curiosity point. I know in the Sanskrit, words have different the same word could have different meanings in different contexts. And I'm just curious, when Prabhupada uses Shraddha, translates Shraddha in different ways, does it fall under that category, or is that something that a scholar might say, oh, he's pushing a certain agenda?
No, it does fall in that category because Shraddha basically means deep faith. Shraddha does not mean belief. Belief does not require anything. Belief just requires some sense of subscription to an idea. Shraddha is which has been developed out of some sense of understanding, practice, realization, or experiencing a relationship. I believe in you, I trust in you, like that. So then what comes is Shraddha. When the Shraddha gets stabilized properly and gets more deepened, then it becomes Nishtha. But even for Shraddha is not something we just, it's not a zero position that we just blindly accept. That's not Shraddha. So when you read these verses, when the verse comes in the context of a Muni or a sage, when he has Shraddha, so what is the nature of his Shraddha? His nature of his Shraddha. Muni is a person who thinks and investigates into truth. Right? So when the word Shraddha comes in the context of the word Muni, it becomes a highly inquisitive person. Because he is a highly inquisitive person and he has developed faith based on that. So therefore, a highly inquisitive student or a sage is one of the characteristics. When Shraddha comes in the context of a simple person, so then it is in the context of basic disciplines in place and so on. So basically it means faith, but to understand the whole words, how this word faith applies in this context, to substitute in a certain in the language of English, you need a certain few more words to just make a sense of it. So certainly, at least in these contexts, it is not about pushing an agenda. So I myself, I've done my masters in Sanskrit, so I can assure that. So it's not about. Many people do say like this, that Prabhupada is pushing his agendas through translations and purports which are not aligned to the literal meaning. So many times when you see word by word meaning, word to word meaning in the synonyms, it will be more accurate. In the translation, he brings the essence of it. So that's always a challenge in translating things. In translation studies, these are the problems which always people occur, because either you translate it as a poetry, or you translate it exactly according to the word, or you translate it according to the implied meanings. So you have to choose what kind of translations you pick. And most of Prabhupada's works are on the implied meanings. His translations are based on implied meanings. So if somebody wants to learn the translation from a Sanskrit perspective, then you have to learn the language, or else probably some Western scholars like Griffith and all, they have done translations on the Vedas. So then it becomes very complex because they literally translate the word. Then you need another English guy who can interpret what this verse means in the poetic sense and how it applies.
And Prabhupada's translations would often be informed by other scriptures.
Yeah. So Prabhupada has compiled the Bhagavata. So when we say compiled, like Rupa Goswami, let's say Vyasadeva is known as a person who has compiled the Vedic literature. When you say somebody has compiled the literature, means the literature has existed in different forms at various places. He's brought it in perspective and compiled it. So it's not that when Vyas wrote the Vedic literature, before that there was no knowledge. When I write a book, that means there is already a principle in place, right? So if I am writing on space or mathematics or astronomy or chemistry, the laws are there already. So like that, Rupa Goswami, he has compiled many things. So like say Padyavali, Lalit Madhav, Vidanta Madhav, those are extractions from many other places. And he's compiled them. So Prabhupada also has compiled many things. Especially, means he has not compiled the shlokas because they are from the Bhagavatam, but he has compiled the purports from Sridhar Maharaj or so many other teachers and tried to bring it in the modern perspective.
Thank you.
I think we have I'll take their question in private. You had some comment or a question?
Question about that question.
Yeah, we'll take it. Thank you.
Jagannath Priya Prabhu ki.
Jai.
So now we will have Arti. Please keep the chairs because we'll have another program with Jayanti Prabhu at 2 o'clock, a poetry reading. But if we can move these red cushions to the side, everyone can come forward for the Arti. Thank you so much.
Chairs over here.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Krishna Prestaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami
Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Stone Founder Acharya Prabhupada ki Guru Parampara ki Srila Goswami Prabhupada ki Nama Acharya Srila Thakur ki Prem se कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत प्रधान श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद की श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपिका श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरी गोवर्धन की श्री नवद्वीप धाम की श्री मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की श्री जगन्नाथ पुरी धाम की गंगा माई की यमुना माई की भक्ति देवी की देवी महारानी की समवेत भक्तवृंद की राज श्रीमद् भागवता की हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की शांता गौर प्रेमानंद All glories assembled to God. All glories assembled to God. All glories assembled to God. All glories to Shri Guru and Quran.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Alada lada daine.
Alada lada daine.
Hiranyakashi purvacham.
Hiranyakashi purvacham.
Shilakankana kalaya.
Shilakankana kalaya.
Itondissimo paratondissimo.
Itona simha paratona simha.
Yato yato yamita tondissimo.
Yato yato yamita tona simha.
Bahirnissimo vedayennissimo.
Mahena simha vedayena simha.
Narasimha madi sharanam prapade.
Narasimha madim sharanam prapade.
Tava kara kamala varena karam adhita sringam dalita hiranyakashipu tanubindra Keshavatita narahari rupa Jaya Jagadisha Jaya
Adhuta shringam dalita hiranyakashipu tanubindra Keshavatita narahari rupa Jaya Jagadisha Keshavatita narahari rupa Jaya Jagadisha Jaya Jagadisha
Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for coming to Bhagavad Sravana. We have a few announcements before lunch. So this happens every single week, Bhagavata Sravana. And next week our speaker will be Rasana Kuru. He's an incredible devotee and an incredible speaker. And he'll be speaking on devotee care and retreats and Charitamrita. And we're really excited. We have a couple really exciting things to announce. First thing is that Mahatma Maru, he did a one-day retreat last year. He's coming back again to do another one-day retreat, and it's a self-care retreat. I'm going to read a little snippet from it. We all agree that caring for devotees with love and compassion is important. We all don't understand or acknowledge that doing this for ourselves is even more essential for us to be able to serve. So the day will include a Srimad Bhagavatam class, morning sessions, lunch, afternoon sessions, kirtan, and dinner. It is a free event, however, to cover the cost of Mahatma coming. If people would like to give a donation, that's highly encouraged. And you can do that on the website, and registration is required. So if you would like to attend, please do go on our website and register. That is going to be, that's so funny, because it doesn't have the, Saturday, I was like, oh my gosh. Saturday, August 26th. So, and then we also have a one-day retreat with Rukmini Walker coming up on chakra energy harmony. And basically, she's going to lead participants through all the chakras and how balancing them can help our practice of devotional service. I think sometimes as devotees, like including myself, I was a devotee before I became a devotee, and we did so much chakra stuff. And then when I became a devotee, I was like, that is total Maya, and that's a yogi thing, but it's not a devotee thing. And then when she sent me this, I was like, wow, Rukmini is a pure devotee, and she's going to teach us how to balance our chakras and how that's going to help our Krishna consciousness. That is so cool. It really shifted my perspective. So I think registration, same thing, free event, but donations highly encouraged. You can register on the website for that. And then Julan Yatra, we have a festival. Julan Yatra is August 30th. From Sunday, August 27th through Wednesday, August 30th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. We hope Kirtan and offer Radha and Krishna our love by facilitating their swing pastimes. And Balaram Jayanti on Wednesday, August 30th, from 7 to 9 p.m. And Janmashtami on September 6th, from 6:30 to 12:30. So a.m. 6:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m.
What is the date for the purple retreat?
It doesn't have it here, but it has it on the website. So you can go to the website and find that information out. My bad. And then we have continuing Tuesdays with Yogi Green every Tuesdays. And today at 2 o'clock, please stay. We're having a poetry reading with Jagannath from 2 to 3:30, which is going to be really beautiful. And we have our next all-day community japa. If you'd like to come and go as you please, or stay the whole day and chant 64 rounds on Saturday, August 5th from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And then we also, Joyal Varanga is going to be teaching a Bhakti Shastri course. So if you're interested in taking Bhakti Shastri, you can also go to our website for more information. And that's it. If you would like to receive what I'm reading from, which is our temple newsletter, you can come see me after the program and I can get you signed up for that. We also have a temple WhatsApp where we have regular WhatsApp posts go out. So please stay, have prasadam lunch served in the back. And thank you so much. Hare Krishna.